prosperity, love, light, and abundance, beautiful rebels, however, as always, are as safe as possible. If I look at a little stiff before we even jump into it, I need to loosen up a little bit. This conversation is definitely, I'm going to just offer or warrant a small disclaimer that it is a bit touchy, so if you start to feel uncomfortable in any way or you need to readjust, maybe come back, please do so. If it's just not something for you, that's fine as well. I'm offering and extending the space in hopes that whoever's meant to hear this and see clearly what it is that I'm saying, it reaches them with an alignment and of understanding, so that we may keep pushing forward. Before we dive into it, please ensure you got yourself something to drink. I have myself some nice herbal tea here. That works. And then we have here, I'm going to cleanse our space. And it would be great for you to do the same as well. As we dive into this, again, this is a bit touchy or more touchier of a subject. So we want to ensure that we are, in fact, entertaining the proper energies, of course. So set the intention, if you will so please. So we are now in a space where the circumstances of our reality have shifted, and it's continuing to shift. It's propelling forward at such an exponential rate, and I feel like to some degree we're not even conscious enough to pay attention. Of course, there are those of us who either have no choice or who are actually, in fact, paying attention as we continue to do whatever work it is that we're doing to stay, current and ahead within everything else surrounding. But the truth of the matter is the dynamics of our reality are in such disarray that it's abysmal. It's very disappointing. I'm going to try to put this as simply and as clearly as possible and try not to make it take too long, because I could go on for hours. But in reality, we are in a space where certain things of the lower vibration are being honored and valued and taken in for what it is, and then you have it where the things that are possibly that much more better for you are being frowned upon, or even taken advantage of. So you have people who they really mean no good, but they come into our energy, our environments, our places of dealing, just all of these different things. You have people who are genuinely disturbed by the grander nature of what some of us offer. And while it's great to tell ourselves we shouldn't pay attention to it, we should try to step away from it, the fact of the matter is, no matter how much you try to step away from it, it's still going to always try to meet you where you are, regardless if it's now or later. It's going to make itself relevant. A perfect example of this is more so the dynamics of our connections as Black people during this beautiful or historical month. There's a lot of historic value tied to this month. For me personally, you guys might, again, take it how you will. I honor and I'm grateful for the history that comes up within this month, but I feel like it should be coming up every day of the year, not just within this month, especially as a people. Especially more so because now we're the ones tearing each other down. We've been the ones tearing each other down, and now while trying to lift each other up, we tear each other down. It's like a double-edged sword what we have going on here, where we're like looking to cultivate this space, and you have people who want to do better, but then they still entertain and operate within these energies that are not subservient to themselves or to those who can actually benefit from whatever it is in terms of like leverage or connection or whatever the case might be that you are offering as an individual. And it's frankly, it's quite sad when you think about it, because we've always been more prepared to compete with one another or one up one another versus actually taking the time to look at one another. And then you'll see others in other cultures who are actually, they walk around in their neighborhoods and they're able to greet one another. They're able to connect with one another on a level where it's like, oh, I want that. It's respectable, but then we're not offering it to ourselves. And that to me is not, it's not cool. I know, like, growing up, I've had, again, the way I was raised is very interesting, simply because I've had, and I don't know, some of you might be able to relate to this as well, so let's see. Growing up, I knew I was black. I knew I was African American, as we're called. Um, but I was raised on Arab traditions, certain various cultures, like they're like literally, it made it to a point where I don't want to say I had a complex, so to speak. Like I related to the Arabs, but I'm not Arab. I related to certain aspects of like Chinese or Japanese culture, but I'm neither. And then as I got older, I got more into like the grungy American, I guess how you would call it, Euro trash type rebellious phase where I'm like heavy into rock music, and just ended up adapting all of these different things. And it's like, it's funny because I appreciate it. It's not, it's nothing wrong with it when you think about it, because it makes me who I am today. But the fact of the matter is, because we're in this like huge melting pot of confusion, because we didn't really align ourselves, all of us, I don't want to say most of us. Oh, how am I trying to say that? I don't want to say all of us. It's just most to some of us that are in like this, I don't want to say confusion puddle, but I have no what other way of putting it. It's like our identity, it's been swiped away. So then we add on top of it and swipe more of it away ourselves, to the point where we're degrading one another. And when I say one another, I mean the masculine and feminine relationship, the mother and father relationship, the actual relationships that start anything, that enable us to even be able to grow to where we are now. It had to continue. Someone had to have enough love and compassion in their heart to go ahead and have a child with another, and then allowing that cycle to continue, and so on and so forth. The fact that we undermine one another so heavy, especially nowadays, it's done with a smile and a handshake. But back then, you have where there were layers of truth to where, like, hey, you getting called certain things. Now, mind you, there's still truth being done now, but I feel like it's just because we're in this like melting pot, this mixed disarray of things, that sometimes it's done so subliminally you don't even realize it until after. It's like, dang, like, you gotta think twice, like, did you really just come at me like that? And they don't even, like, they didn't even think that they're doing something wrong. But in reality, they're very much so doing something to cause harm or some sort of negativity, or projecting something that's not necessary. And being able to, and especially coming from and seeing the things that I've witnessed and experienced and taken in, a lot of this is observational. And it's like, okay, well, I'm observing, but I don't hear anyone saying anything. Why is no one really talking about this? The fact that, like, now men and women are kind of at odds. They are pitted against one another. They are like the masculine is fighting the masculine within the woman, and the feminine within the woman is fighting the feminine within the man. So it's just this like huge disorganization and limited mindset behavior when it comes to men and women because of how much we've mistrust and caused mistrust in one another. And I'm speaking on this from experience as well as from just witnessing so much. Like, I don't know, as early as I could remember. Now, mind you, I'm very open minded. I love everybody. Genuinely, I really genuinely care for everyone. I want the sincere. I would love for everyone to be able to get along. When I say everyone, I mean everyone as a whole, like just the human race in general. I think that, you know, we're all worthy of love and unconditional connections and just all these beautiful things that we can have as a human race. But because of the fact of certain things being done, certain things needing to be undone and cleansed and reset so that we're able to do that, has to take place. And it's like, how does it take place if the negatives are still at play? And for me, I guess I'm speaking more of a sense of balancing, right? Like that's what we need most, especially within the Black communities. Again, leaning back into my example, growing up, I befriended anybody. I didn't really, anyone who was actually willing to be open. Now, mind you, being of a religious faith, that made it a little tricky for certain people to want to be friends, depending on who they were. Like, it was kind of hard. Some were accepting and some weren't. And then on top of that, not being able to you only getting to see certain people during school, or only hanging out with certain people on the weekend. So I had like these different worlds I was entertaining even as a kid. So seeing all of this and learning how to operate within that system was very interesting, especially at a young age, because you have it where, like, me personally, like in primary school, elementary school, I entertained, and I had an array of friends. Like, I had different friends from different backgrounds, got along just fine. Even when we didn't, we still were able to come back together. But then once I got into like middle and high school, I started connecting more with Latino folks. Like, I was really more closer to Latino folks than I was with my own people. And I didn't mind that. I loved it. It was cool. Gave me some gems. I love being around the culture and everything like that, up until you had experienced the random racism of the parent. Or you'd have that one friend out their group who's like really set on being like their parents. So then he's like, he or she's pretending like they're cool and they're down to hang out with you, but then they're actually, a bit racist or whatever. Like, having those experiences were interesting, and leading up into high school and I'm bringing that up because as I got older, those experiences they didn't diminish. They actually would, become more fuller, as time grows on. You're going out of adolescence and things like that, and now you're broadening the circle. So again, still for some reason, Latinos and other races took to me a lot better than my own people. I don't know why I couldn't. It was hard to get along and get in where I could fit in with my own people. And I would have other girls who, now mind you, I don't know how that all worked out. And that's for another time. But I'm sharing all of that because, again, as I'm getting older, there's like this pattern coming up. Like, okay, well, everybody's cool. We're all chilling. Everything's fine. We're able to relate just fine. Outside of the occasional racism. And I'm like, well, how does that work? Either being called different things, like, and it's like, to me, I'm cool. Like, I understood, like, everybody has their own viewpoints and stuff like that, but it's still at the same time, it's like, how do I navigate through this if we're supposed to be friends, So it started making me, like, really pay attention more. And as I would pay attention more, for some reason I'd end up attracting girls, just as I'm getting older, attracting girls who like they love being around black people and stuff like that. But then I realized like, well, it's only for credibility, or it was only for like I've had girls who, it's disappointing to say this, but they would only want to be with the black men for specific reasons. Like it wasn't like they actually genuinely. So it's like you're already, to me, the way I'm operating when I'm looking at someone or wanting to connect with someone is because we had that genuine, real. There was an alignment there, and they were already setting intention for what their connection was supposed to be like and why they would target this person or that person. And I thought that was kind of like scary. That's just like women who are gold diggers, or women who kind of like sell themselves short in order to get a man who might have a bit more and things like that. And I feel like it's scary just because like as a parent, we have to worry about these things. We have to be able to figure out how to strategically place our children so that we can help them to maneuver in the best way of these settings so that they don't get exposed to these harmful things. Because I wouldn't want my son, now mind you, again, I love everybody, I understand we all could end up falling in love with whoever we fall in love with, like that does not matter. But what matters to me is if a woman, or having that in the back of my head, that there's possibly a woman who's of another culture, you're of another background, and you simply want to enjoy the essence of my son, the essence of my lineage, only to fulfill a need for yourself in a way that's not actually, it's more so selfish than it is actual and servitude. Again, we are supposed to procreate because it's a service. We're procreating because there's an energy that aligns. It comes out of the essences you're sharing when you procreate. You're not just procreating to procreate. If that was the case, we'd have a million babies and die, and that would be it. That would, seriously, like, that doesn't make sense. There's a reason why we need to continue to have these generational experiences, because as each generation comes in, it's fulfilling a need that wasn't met within the last generation. And that's what or at least that's what I'm starting to understand. So that to me is disheartening. And then you have it like, okay, so now mind you, I couldn't take to, I didn't have a lot of black friends growing up. And again, I don't know if it's because they thought I was a foreign, I'm foreign and all that other stuff, that it was hard for them to kind of like adjust and get with the fact that, hey, I look just like you. Even if I'm not exactly like you, I look just like you. Now, granted, they did have that whole propaganda situation going on, coming up, if anyone remembers that, where they have like the oh shoot, what are they called? Dang, I forgot what they were called. Remember the people, they would go and like take all the pamphlets and food and just all this different stuff over to Africa, different areas in Africa, and they would like go to, the word is escaping me, but they would go to get people to want to go into the fold of Christianity, pretty much. They were doing that when I was just like anybody, gonna go around getting people to come in and join their fold. They were going as far as having people go over there and help assist in saving people from starvation and things like that, and indoctrinizing these people who didn't even know Christianity existed. Anywho, because I got off of the path there, I don't know why, because thinking about it, the fact that you had people, a lot of kids growing up were told not to mess with Africans, and vice versa. Like, you got Africans coming here, they're told not to mess with the black people that are here. Then you got the black people here that are being told not to mess with the Africans that come here because they might have such and such and such. Just if anyone remembers that, that was going on heavy coming up, if you know what I'm talking about. And that's crazy because that was creating a separation between our homeland and the land that we're on now. So those of us who are already here, and then those of us coming from the homeland, we still at odds. There was still a way to actually have that separation in place. I mean, luckily, again, enough of us have a sense to think and was able to connect with certain people, and over time now it's just like everybody connects with everybody. But the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because even as growing up, even coming up, there were moments where like my guy friends, because I don't know why ended up having guy friends until I couldn't keep them as friends anymore. Um, I watched them do certain stuff. I would watch them behave certain ways, and then even like as I got older and seeing how like my when I had a partner, how the men operated in their family and stuff like that. Because I didn't, my family were mostly women. Like we didn't have hardly any men around, so it's like I didn't really get to see how men operated, and that is a big part of it too. Is you have a lot of us who are coming from literally all feminine families. The family that we're coming from is either masculine, overly masculine, or overly feminine, to where you're not able to actually operate. And no, but mind you, there's girls I've met who have come from strictly feminine families that were able to operate within the space of the masculine just fine. So no, I can't say it like that. I have to re-correct that or go in and correct that. And it's interesting about that is I've seen like how like they'll entertain us as their women. When I say us as their women, I mean us as black women. They would entertain the black women, but then you would see them praising and fawning over white girls or Latino girls and, just other women. It's like, but why not treat your women like that? Why not look at your women like that? Why are you degrading and, putting this negativity on your own women, but you can acknowledge and enjoy the splendors of the other women? I get the other women might have either looked a little bit more shinier and it's like, but why not pour into your women so they can look like that? Why fawn over another one that isn't of you? Because then that's where the actual problem is. It's not necessarily because it's another woman in to boil it down, because I don't want it to come off offensive. Again, I don't mean to offend anyone. It's just what I've observed, and it makes total sense. I mean, it's to a point now where I just honestly would love to see black men and women being able to come together because of the fact that we've actually separated ourselves. You could literally go in any other culture and see the men praising their women. You see the men honoring their women. You see the men valuing their women. You see the men not degrading their women. They're valuing their women. So then you have more of their women operating in a certain way because they're being respected and being valued and held at value. And of course, now as time's inching on, we're slowly starting to earn back a certain level of being received as women, just actual genuinely flowing women, and not this beast in this structure that we need to be received as. Like I'm, just wanting to be a soft person or being a softer person, I still feel like I'm received as a tougher, more aggressive person automatically because I'm a black woman. And that is flipping exhausting. It is so exhausting to have to be received in such a heavy manner, to where, yes, there are moments where my shell is so hardened to where I feel like I have to protect myself in every room I go into. And it shouldn't be like that. Like, yes, like granted, there are things that take place in the world to where, yes, we need to, be mindful and tactful and all of these beautiful things for sure. But to have these spaces where we can't even be valued by our own men properly because of all of the years of issues and degradation and all of the years of us as women, the women falling into this pit and not being able to rewrite the fact that we need to value our men. We need to be able to honor our men, to where now, like, you have it where we as women, we would probably prefer to be with the men we know and love first, the men we got to see and interact with first, which would be whoever looks like our father, whoever looks like our brother if he didn't have a father around, and things like that. But again, because of how how much deterioration we've accepted within our actual community settings, we've put these blinders on, convincing ourselves that we're doing ourselves a service by turning our backs on one another, or by as long as you're able to keep this leverage over another by degradation and things like that, or material things, then it's all good. Then you're in bliss. You're happy, but in reality, no, you just want the next person to think you got it like that, and you're not actually putting in service to your people because you're adding value to one another. Because by getting a partner, by connecting with the right one, especially right now, and me personally, how I'm seeing it now is quite different. I genuinely feel like if we as a people could connect and heal the traumas within our DNA, us as Black people, if we could actually heal that here at the root while we still have space and opportunity. There's so much stuff going on, but if we had the space and opportunity right now to actually allow ourselves to heal one another, we could then expand. It's time to pull back a bit and stop over expelling ourselves. Don't allow these women to misuse you. You have it where these beautiful men go into these spaces and then they're getting used and mistreated by these women who just see them as a meal ticket because they got the come up, and that's not cool. It's quite horrible, actually, and in actuality, I wanted to go ahead and insert this real quick. A lot of this behavior is still based off of this right here. Oops, if I can show it to you. It's still based off of this right here. This is the making. This is from the Willie Lynch letters. If you read it, you know how brutal this was. And it's interesting. So I can post these on my Instagram if you want. I'll take pictures and post them on my Instagram, just so you can kind of see the pages that I'm actually looking from. Because I've actually come across, I've read one version, but then I've come across another version and they weren't exactly the same, which was weird. I don't know how that works. If it's, it's only one book, it wasn't like it was from something else or anything like that for it to, but I guess books get reprinted wrong and taken apart in the wrong way too, or something like that, or parts get left out. So we'll see. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, let me know. Excuse my raspy voice today. I don't know why yeah. So again, we were being made. It literally says here, cardinal principles for making a Negro. The part that stood out to me most is the fact that we were compared to animals, horses and cattle, things like that. They brought us in and broke us in as animals, like livestock, tied together in a specific system. For the For the orderly features, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the youngest offspring. And so it begins. Both must be crossbred to produce a variety of division of labor. I can't read, I'm so sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. And the psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created for both. And it says we hold above six cardinals as truths to be self-evident, based upon the following discourse concerning the economics of breaking and tying the horse and the nigger together, all inexclusive of the 6 principles laid down. And now they sleep while you are awake and are awake while you're asleep. And why they do this is to kind of keep an offset and off balance. What this does is to always keep a level of awareness within the individual. So then it makes it very tiring and exhausting. It says they are dangerous near the family house. I should have underlined my specific part I was looking for. But this, right, I don't want to read all of it because it is a bit brutal. If you guys want a part 2 of me going over just these pages that I have specifically, I can definitely do that because this is getting quite long. The point of why I'm referring to this is to remind you guys that we are not far from this at all. This behavior is why the system, the way that our relationships operate, the way that they do now, the way that we think and how we treat one another, the way that we see and receive one another is because of this right here. We are literally as individuals carrying our own nooses, but we are also now as partners and family members and friends and all of these things, now we just simply hold each other's noose when we need to take a piss. So it's really something to think about. I genuinely am putting this out there because it's to a point now where it's like, okay, it's one thing to love others, but then to place and put value over one another is horrible. To compare another to another is horrible. To break down and tear down another person because you think that there's more value in this person because of their skin tone is horrible. To acknowledge and not receive another because of their skin tone is unacceptable. We are in a space now where that is not going to fly. We are who we are. I can't go and change the way that I was made. I can alter it for sure, but to try to pretend to be otherwise to appease another is not cool. And to have someone who looks like me, who is supposed to be my brother, my caretaker, my lover, my father, a strong, bold, protective figure, be the one who chooses to degrade simply because you can't rewire and rewrap around the concept that I am actually valuable, is not conducive to continuing or working towards a greater sense of leverage within our communities, within our families, in our households, our connections. And yes, we have it where some of us who are even, it's discerning because you have those who are highly educated who are performing this way. And it's you have to understand, yes, while your mother may have not have been the best, because again, that's where you're getting your first connection of a woman. She may not have been the best. She could have been amazing, spectacular. You could have thought she was a superhero. Or again, the exact opposite. And that can kind of determine your relationship because of how you received your mother, then that's how you received every other woman, out of anger and injustice. And it's not cool because again, she's going through things that she's trying to figure out, all while trying to nurture and be a parent to you. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Again, each generation, we're supposed to be working to untie those knots, let it go, move forward. That's things we should be letting go, not the actual history, not the actual actions. Because again, if you're not looking at the action within a historical moment, your childhood was a historical moment. If you're not looking at and combing through those moments, how are you supposed to heal it if you're just instead running away from it and then spewing out this toxic message within yourself on everyone who crosses your path? It's unacceptable behavior. We are far too civilized. I need to get that together because that's making my voice sound all scratchy and crazy. But again, this was touchy to even think about. I keep trying to choke back tears when I'm thinking about what people have had to go through, what people have gone through, what I've gone through, what I've experienced as a Black woman. And the fact that while we want to believe we want to have faith in equality, we want to be able to actually receive and love one another as human beings, as a sentient race. We want to be able to embrace these moments together. We still have to accept that racism is very much alive and well. It's just now it's dolled up and greeting you with a smile from someone who looks like your brother or your sister. I am definitely definitely going to go into a part 2 with this. I wanted to, I don't know, I was just letting it flow. So I really hope that this reaches who it needs to reach, that you receive whatever it is you're supposed to be receiving from this message. I definitely will be, I got some more planned. Oh, I'm hungry, so if you hear my stomach growling, my apologies. If you would like me to go into a reading of these specific pages I have, I will definitely do that. Just comment down below. You can just say pages. Please be sure to like the video so it gets more traction. We gotta do better to be better people. We gotta really pour into one another and stop looking at each other as if we are the enemy, because we're not. We don't have to be. At least we're not Uncle. We can fix what it is we think is wrong within our systems, within one another. Don't degrade one another by putting another over. There's a very fine line between wanting to accept and receive love in the many ways that it may come, but also to misuse and mistreat another because you aren't healed within, because then that's what you're doing, and you don't want others to receive you in that way. So I'm gonna cut it there because it got too long. If you guys want a part 2, we can definitely tap into this a bit further, because it is a heady subject, and it's just something that is very important to me, especially coming from a fatherless setting, a fatherless setup. I expect more from the men more than ever. I think more so as an adult after having certain experiences. If I could ever say I expect anything, I do expect more from the men in healing themselves, taking the time to actually learn more about themselves, value themselves. Don't run to the bottle. Don't run to the overindulging in the food and the music and the sex and all these things. You are so much better than that. So yes, I do expect more from the men, especially as someone who the youth need that. They need that from you, and the sooner you realize that, the more comparable it can be ingrained in your DNA, so that when you do have offspring, or the offspring you do have already can receive this information in the best way possible, regardless of where you get it from, because you're going to hear this in many multiple ways. And it's up to you to decide what it is you would like to do as a man. Not as a little boy playing a man, but as a man looking to heal the very wounds that have been inflicted on his mother's mother. And what that will do, in turn, will allow the women to want to follow suit. So then you can get this submissive, honorable, humbling women that are within your women. Should that be who you fall in love with? Again, I'm not condoning or advertising racism. I just want to make that very, very clear, because I know that this could be misconstrued. It's just simply, I genuinely believe and see that we got to heal at the root, and the way to heal at the root is to actually come together and value one another in full, in whatever way that looks like. Getting back to the root of the black home, building black homes, so that you can, if it ever came up, be able to extend yourself in a more abundant way to those around you, is what is coming up. So I had to kind of, the hype kind of calmed down a little bit. So I hope that this reaches who it needs to reach. I hope that you're able to receive this message in the best way possible. Again, I can go into a part 2. Just be sure to just share like a little book, so I know. You can share the book emoji, like the video, share the video, so there's more traction to it, because we got a lot to talk about, people. I'm sending you all high vibrations and genuine receptivity and generosity and leveling. I am extending a sense of value in the fact that you chose to take a moment to even hear a second of these words. You are well received, and I value you. I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon.